So it is January 8th, 2022, and I am so excited for so many reasons. And I thought it would be just a darn shame if I wasted all this excitement on just myself. So I'm hoping that this will help rub off some excitement in your lives. And I just want to start out by welcoming all of you here. It's such an honor. And I'm so humbled that this is a new year. We've been doing this, I don't know, 20 some years, meeting in the beginning of the year and taking a step into this expanded consciousness together, guided by the angels and the party and Einstein and all of our friends who are over there now. Kathy Klein says a big hello. And so I went through a very intense ritual this holiday season, and at the beginning and the end of last year and the beginning of this year. And I will suffice it to say that it worked so well at clearing out and digging in, and it got me deeper into my own conflict revolution. And the upshot of this ritual in this clearing was the realization of what this work that we have done together means to the world right now. And I just put out this blog post with this interview with a young man whose name, I'm sorry, I can't remember, Schlafenmeister. Well, you'll go read it. Anyway, the whole upshot of listening to this intense interview about the truth of where our reality has come is that we are the answer that they're looking for. We've been told that we're the answer that they're looking for from the beginning. You have what they want. And I have this completely new, awesome vision of all of the resources and all of the power that we have as very few in many ways, to be a huge force of change right now when it's really needed too. And part of listening to that podcast is it has a little grimness to it, I will say. But we've been working with Einstein and the party of 12, who include some kind of grim people. And I remember way back when we went from angels, and then I started channeling these famous dead people in Afterlife for World Peace. And there was some question at the time about why would you talk to Hitler, or why would you talk to, and now it's clear. It's clear the wisdom that has imbued into the process that they've asked us to study for decades now, like we have been. So one of my New Year's resolutions or manifestations was I wanted to make my work for me, because I feel like I've done so much work joyfully through the years. Nothing could have stopped me from doing this work. But now I'm at a place where there's so much of it. Let's make it work for me. And so I have this renewed vision has been able to clear after I cleared out some of that and got into my victim. Why do I want to be a victim? Owning my victimhood, all those messy things that conflict revolution makes you do. And then the honoring and articulating, the clearing, and the miracle that then comes to pass because we choose to take these actions in our lives. However you do it for you, the whole thing is designed to be designed by you, for your life. And so when I cleared all that away and I thought, here I go again, because I love Einstein so much. I love this work. I love you guys, everybody who even wants to hear about it, because we are ahead of our time. This isn't at this time, it's more like a mystery school than it is pop culture at this time. But that's what's changing. And that's what's going to change even more in 2022. All of us are going to be called upon in our own ways to have that influence in our worlds, in our universes, starting with ourselves. So in answer to the manifestation intention that I'm going to make this work for me, I happened upon a document that I made probably, I'm going to say around 2017. And it is is a great amount of time I put into this document. And then I kind of set it aside because I didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't have anything to do with it. I wasn't doing the classes, and I never got around to like beta testing it to see if it was applicable, but I found it today. And I decided, well, I found it yesterday, but I decided this was the perfect opportunity for me to bring out this tool, this piece of work that I want to work for me now, show it to everybody, because it is, for me, it's the basis of birthing the new humanity. Because those of us who have been working conscientiously and will continue to work to be those new people, to be that change, who understand the urgency that we as individuals take up this mission for ourselves, regardless of what anybody else is doing. More and more, it's more important than ever for us to do this. And one of the things that is important right now is science and spirit become one system that's part of the new humanity. And that's, of course, something we've been doing for a very long time. But this presentation that I'm going to use you as guinea pigs today, I think will be the jumping off point for this year for a lot of, at least the direction that I think Einstein wants to go, because he's been saying to us, he wants more airtime. He's going to have more airtime. The party's we're going to do this. And I feel that, and I'm gearing up, and I'm finding new ways already to outreach this to the world for the people who are ready to come into the mystery school. And there's more and more people all the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to go through this tool as quickly as I can. I'm not going to belabor it. This isn't going to be some long lecture. This is going to be to see how, after not having actually, I went through some of them, I went through enough of them to go, okay, I'm ready. Let's just do this. Let me just show you this. This is how matter is manifest. This is the map of human consciousness. It's the unified field theory, and it's all built on compassion as the fifth fundamental force of the universe. So what I'm going to do is we're going to walk through from nothing to everything, one step at a time, to see how we get to this whole map. And this is a map not only of the Earth, it's a structure of the Earth. You see the North Pole and the South Pole and the electromagnetic field, but it's also the compilation of an individual consciousness, the being that is you, that has this experience in the lens. So here's me in the lens, and there's a chair in all the physical world. And this is how consciousness has a physical experience and creates the infinite universe. And it's a lot to claim, I understand. But I'm so excited to take you through this and have you then be able to feed me back. And together synergistically, we can create this most authentic and effective deliverance of this information to the people who need it. Conflict revolution, we're going to make a monumental change in this situation, in whatever we're going to apply it to, whatever conflict you have. I've got enough to be in my head about it right now. And it means turning your revolving 180 degrees. So we're going to make a monumental change by revolving our focus 180 degrees back to us based upon these maps that we're going to show you. So we'll have a little roadmap to take you through. And we have some ground rules and some values. So your domain is your responsibility. Your domain is your responsibility, not hers or his. And then your domain is your responsibility. So I'm not responsible for your domain. She's not responsible for your domain. And then C1 and 2. So this is all about us taking control of what we have to have control of. And then our values, passion is the first one. So not only do we have a right, but we have a responsibility to learn to feel all of our feelings. And then non-judgment. Everyone is innocent. Everyone has both the duality within them. So non-judgment. And then the last one is humor. So if you can't laugh at yourself, then we will laugh at you for you. No, we will bring this humor into it. It makes all the difference in the world, the levity. So we're going to start with compassion, the scientific definition. So the 4 fundamental forces of the universe: electromagnetism, igniting, stuff that ignites; gravitation, guiding and pulling and pushing; nuclear, the strong nuclear force is the attraction and the repelling, and the weak nuclear force is the transforming. So 1 to 2, red to blue, that kind of changes. So these are the 4 fundamental forces of the universe. But there's a 5th fundamental force, and that's compassion. And compassion is the intelligence that uses the 4 fundamental forces to impel the creation of matter, one step at a time, from absolutely nothing to the entire infinite universe. That's what compassion is. It's the intelligence that uses the real life forces to impel creation one step at a time out of nothing. And the way that it operates and influences that is, the first definition is that it's like the device with the arm that draws a circle. So impassion is impelling the creation of matter to create an electromagnetic sphere that becomes your compilation of consciousness. And it surrounds all the math that you're going to have as you, so you Debbie, or you Robin, or you Lily. The second thing it does is it aligns us to North Pole. So we are all on the same map. And that our compilation of consciousness has exactly the same electromagnetic field as the Earth's does. So we are little tiny pieces of Earth in that way. And this is why it's the microcosm of our compilation and the macrocosm of the heavens and the universe. And then the third thing that compassion does, it makes us self-aware that we're a part of the whole, that we all originate from the same source. That's what compassion lets us know, that we are one with each other. So this scientific definition of compassion is brilliant. And what is it that makes compassion impel nothing into something that's going to be everything? And that's the mystery. At the root of everything, nothing, it's a mystery. You can't see inside that black hole that you're emanating from because it's antimatter. So at the base of this is a mystery, and we honor that mystery. And so we don't know why or how, but we know that from nothing, compassion impels energy to create consciousness, to take that first step out of nothing into something. And it's like a big bang. The first step from nothing to something. And here's the beginning of the compilation, the beginning of the earth itself. And it is the source. And it creates a compilation of consciousness that has that center point and an electromagnetic boundary surrounding it. And you can see there's life moving in there. It's surrounded all of the mathematics of absolutely everything that you are going to experience. And in that way, for example, all of us here, right? We're all experiencing this Zoom experience. So at that level of our being, of our operating system, we're all superimposed in that gelatinous mass of energy that has yet to be separated and created into the divine physical. So there's the first, and it, let's see. So looking at it like the earth, there's the North Pole, the South Pole, the Earth's electromagnetic field, and then there's the source in the center of the earth. All of those compilations of consciousnesses, those are all of us in there, in the source. Sometimes we call it the clarity. And this source is the first point in creating human consciousness. And what's needed to create human consciousness is a human intention. And it's a 3-point, we're going to get into it, but the source is the first point on our intention of our consciousness to travel up to be human, as opposed to the chair. And how that works basically is, here's my compilation of consciousness. Here's my gravitational wave. It's moving from the center of the earth up into the surface of the earth. And this is the lens. This apparently when I did this, it was 2011. And this is where our bodies are. This is where all the physical world is experienced and created because of having a body, actually. But that wave keeps going on up, and it hooks up with the Earth's electromagnetic field. I don't know what that is. It looks like a satellite or a chair floating in space. And it comes up, and it literally, this is how big we are, goes through the North Pole. This is all a black hole. It operates like a black hole. So you cannot, here's the event horizon. You cannot see down in there, but it goes down in there and it begins again. And this spinning string, spinning at the speed of light squared, creates this life. But there's also out here in the heavens, a part of this human intention called the observer, that's able to see and be connected to the source, observe the lens, and is a part of this human intention. But you can see this is a little bit of how you have a concurrent life. We used to call them past lives, and now they're concurrent. So from that same compilation of consciousness is programmed a different DNA space-time body and a different lens, but it's still operating the same way. The lens is the gravitational wave is coming up here, creating the body, the lens, the whole human experience keeps going up, around. And then this, you see, is where these two lives intermingle as they come back into this mysterious world of the black hole, exchanging, becoming one, becoming nothing together. So that's, those are past lives. Now, here's the Earth. This is, we're looking at the Earth. Here's the North Pole, South Pole. There's the center of the Earth, and you see all these layers leading up to as it gets more into form. And there's the lake and the mountains, and of course the trees. So the earth is creating itself, and we are a subset of her. And this is the source. We align with the electromagnetic field, like on a compass, our own compilations. So we really are, this really is a unified field theory. So here's what happens. Here's the math. This is me. Here's all my math. The time, the day, the latitude, the longitude, the height, the weight, the DNA, the chair outside me, everything outside me is all contained within this compilation. And through the miracle of M theory and compassion, mysteriously impelling this one particle to separate into two. And this is how we're getting into infinite. This is the first step from 1 to 2. And what that looks like now is within this compilation, now that I have separation. Now there's my inner world and the outer world. And the whole infinite outer world is being represented by a chair today. So, so that's compassion using the 4 fundamental forces. It's using the weak fundamental force to transform the 1 into 2. And it's using the strong nuclear force. Did I say weak nuclear force? Transforming 1 to 2. Strong nuclear force that keeps these compilation, these two now connected, like repelling and attracting. And then through the miraculous step of let's go one more, let's create the third particle, separating these into 3. So now you have the inner world, the outer world, and the part of your awareness that can witness both the inner world and the outer world. So this is really the beginning of, here's the inner world in the source, here's the outer world in the lens, and this is really the observer, the witness and the observer that can be aware of what's going on inside as well as what's going on outside. So when in the source, there are these 3 holy trinity of human intention. And I want to go just very quickly back to the master, because you see you have the source, the observer, and the lens. Here's that wave that's broken out. We're going to get into these human dimensions that creates the physical body. And the physical body projects and perceives through thoughts, feelings, and senses the physical world here in the lens. And then there's the witness that can witness all of that, the observer that can witness all of that. And what is going to transform all of this into a human is not just the human intention, but these 3 points of this triad that create a human psyche. So compassion at the source, honor and articulation in the lens, vision as the observer, that is the human psyche that works with the human intention of the source, observer, and lens as it's creating this physical world here. And this, I meant to say this earlier, this is a 13-dimensional system. So you have the source, the observer, the lens, compassion, honor and articulation, vision. You have emotion, intuition, intellect, and you have thoughts, feelings, and senses. And then you have the witness. So this is our operating system. So when we're talking about the lens, of here, this is the non-physical part of us, this part of the lens that's coming out of the source, right? It's going up to the lens to create the body that's creating a whole world and spinning back around. These are where these human emotion, these human dimensions show up. So the very first dimension, right out of the gate, right as that wave is making that transition from that compilation of three and on its move, is emotion. And emotion is the I am of your essence. It's the creative fuel of the manifestation of the entire physical world. So every single emotion needs to be able to be processed by this human to be able to have the fullest, deepest, richest, most evolved relationship to the physical world that we can. So we define it in a different but very specific way within the system. It can be other things, but this is what we call it, the I am. It's, and there in that is the primordial soup, that emotion. You've got some of the chair molecules, particles are pulling apart, but they're staying close, and all of your particles are like, okay, where's Barb? Okay, Barb. You're starting to pull together, getting ready to pull together into the next two. Now we're making another transition from one emotion into two. And that moves us into intuition. So as these emotions are moving up the wave and they separate into two, now we have intuition. And intuition is the voice of God. It's the sound. And intuition itself is a small declarative statement impelling the next most advantageous step for the good of the whole. The only thing I would say differently is it may not be a statement, but it's the impelling from within of the voice of God, the perfect voice of God. Is you're manifesting perfectly what's in that compilation of your consciousness. It's always perfectly manifesting. It may be in conflict and perfectly manifesting conflict, but this is a perfect system. And intuition will always tell you the next most advantageous step for the good of the whole. And as we take that third step, though, into, I shouldn't say though, into intellect, this is where we start to define the physical world. On a very subatomic level, there's an intellectual message saying, that is a chair, that is a chair, that is a chair, that is a chair. On some very subatomic level, there is a impelling that's saying, beat heart, breathe. There's a lot of stuff going on in this non-physical part of what's making you human. But when it gets to the intellect, now it's revolving its focus from I am a chair to that is a chair. And it's doing the projection of the entire infinite universe out of our bodies to be perceived by our bodies. And in that dimension of intellect, Einstein and the angels, this is where all the conflicts in the world take place. As intuition moves up into the intellect, it meets also with free will. And free will is the part of us that has the power to say no to God. We have the power to say no to our intuition, and we often do. So it's within these three human dimensions that we're going to be delving into our own personal rebirthing of the human. But I want to take a quick look at intellect. So in this, here's the intuition down here. There's an emotion maybe that says, I'm angry. And as it moves up that wave and the voice of intuition starts to guide it, it might say, go be angry. And as it moves up into the subatomic part of your thinking, that part where it's operating and we just don't even pay attention to it, there's all of these personal voices of culture that you've accumulated through the years. Like, if I get mad, then I'm going to get hurt, or I'm not worthy, or as far as over here, this is the transition from the emotional part of you that's the chair. I am a chair, well, go be a chair, and it gets into that subatomic and it says, I am a chair. And as it changes past the subatomic and goes into your human range, that's when the revolution happens. You know, in the eye, when it crosses, there's a moment where it crosses, and that's where it crosses out of the subatomic and into the intellectual. Because now, if I get mad, then I get hurt, turns into, well, I'm not mad. Everything's perfect. You're not thinking if I get mad, I'll get hurt. You're just projecting as that is revolved to the outer world. You're doing what you need to do in order to process that experience. So in this human rage of thinking, this is where we work on our conflicts. This is the place of free will. This is the place where the witness can look at the lens and say, wait a minute, you're thinking this. Let's not think that. Let's think this. Okay, you're holding on to that. Let's breathe through that instead of focusing on the story or all of any of those myriad of control that we have over our own domain. And what happens is when we do this and we say, I'm not mad because everything's perfect, that emotion that's trying to get out, that anger, gets denied. And it has to be deflected back into what we call the abscess. So here it comes, it's flowing. Ooh, I'm mad, go be mad. Oh, no, I'm not mad. Oh, okay. I guess we're not going to be mad today. And that abscess builds up and it gets in the way of our manifestations. It gets in the way of our health. And this is a lot of what I feel like I was able to get to at the end of last year with that ritual. I guess I can't say enough about it. I hope everyone takes the time to do that. And how we clear that abscess. And this is really, I think, the heart and soul of conflict revolution. There's a lot of stuff that we can do in our work. You know, there's the honoring and articulating, there's the journaling, there's the understanding, the intellectual, there's preparing. But I think the real heart of it is learning how to have that whole spectrum of emotion, feeling and breathing them, bypassing whatever these voices of culture say that you're not mad. Because there's other voices of culture that are going to say, oh, don't get mad. That's not high energy. That's not like, that's a low level energy. You don't want to get mad. Well, you have to process it. You have to. Otherwise, it's going back and it's only going to build up and it will something. And we all know this. So that is what the process of conflict revolution gives us, the ability to say, well, I'm not mad. Oh, wait a minute. I am mad. And I just have to feel and breathe and feel and breathe. I remember one time, I think it was probably 24 hours. I felt and breathed on Debbie's porch. And she would come in every like 3 hours and go, are you okay? And I'd go, yeah, I just keep feeling and breathing. And thank God too, because it saved my life, I think. So this is, let's see, that's the North Pole triggers. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that for right now for these maps, and to give you my thanks for letting me go through that. I'd like to go into the channel now, since it's all here, right, with us. And then afterwards, if we want to talk about anything, I don't know, some of you maybe took notes, or I'm perfectly willing to go back to them and talk about any aspect of them, or hear your thoughts about them, or any of all that. So, but for now, let's get settled. I'm going to have a sip of tea. And let's take some deep breaths together. As we breathe in, and breathe out. We will command that only the most divine light shine down upon you at this time, and that the greatest good be present here. We are delighted for this day to come. We have been orchestrating so much through the years, and we love that term because it is like an orchestra. You are creatures of light and sound, and our influence on you has been a learning experience. We want to start today in the very beginning of 2022 by taking an inventory of who is present. And those of you who are alive and present with us, it is no accident that your particular configuration of energy has been brought together today. All of you individually are not only feeding this energy in an incredible synergy, but you are also being fed by this energy as you are awakening to parts of you that you forgot about. It's not that you're becoming something, it's that you're remembering who you really are. And that's one reason why we came here today, was to remind you of who you are. We've always said that we are fairly mission focused. We don't talk a lot about gossip, how did Norma Jean feel about Jackie? We don't delve into those kinds of information. Ours is very, very focused from the beginning, and with an intense focus on one particular process that we felt we needed to bring onto the earth. Because when you get to afterlife, it's not the end of the mission. It intensifies for those of you who are called to a mission. And we say that most every human is called to a mission. Sometimes when you get to afterlife, you need to rest for a while. Your soul just needs to not get caught up in what we just showed you. That is the creation of life. Out of nothing into something, the center of the earth, you are created. And it's so much energy to create that human life. It's the big bang at your root at the speed of light squared. That is infinite energy that is needed just for you to have this physical experience. And sometimes you need to step away. You need to rest, not worry about the evolution of the entire human species, because ultimately you will prevail. Ultimately, we make this transition. And a lot of that is because of this hard work you've done. And now you've come into the world in 2022, where more than ever, people are going to want what you have and need what you have. And the way in which you provide that gift, and we don't mean that you just give everything away, there's going to be abundance here for you, but it's your gift to the world, and then the world gives back to you. And sometimes that process in 2022 is going to be a little bit looser than it has been in your past, because this is a new world you're in, and you're birthing yourselves into this new world to be these new people. And you're just using the same systems from the old world. You're just adapting to what is needed. And luckily, the process hasn't changed in all this time. Luckily, the answer has always been look within, to self-love. The answer has always been, if you love yourself and care for yourself, then you can disconnect from the external voices of culture who try to get you to make decisions that aren't for the good of who you are, but maybe for the good of somebody else's bottom line. And the only way for humans to learn how to do that is to learn how to become intuitively oriented creatures. And the period you're going through right now is one of the least spiritual cultures that has ever existed on this planet. Now, and we've been saying that for decades, but now you understand. It really is. And in order to bring that change about, which is sort of a pendulum of whatever, as the energy swings into the duality, because physical world is the duality. There's us and them. And it is true. It's very true in the lens. You can't sit in somebody's space. You can't, there's boundaries. But in the source and all the rest of the wave, there's a lot of cohabitation together as one incredible organism. Imagine what the earth and all of these humans and all of this potential and all of these realities, and then the past lives, it could make you swoon with energy and make you guffaw at the miracle of it all. Considering at its root is a mystery. So our 2022 manifestation intention is to regenerate our own messages. And we do that through you. We do that through you. Now, we do that through humans all around the world, not formally engaged in listening to us talk through Barbara, perhaps, but we specifically need you to be that change, to carry that energy forward for us too. It's part of our development too, that you do this. Not that we stand to be eradicated, because life is eternal in afterlife. It is the immortal part of who you are. But for your, how can we say, benefit, for your own human benefit, because in that lens, where you are in that lens is the most important place that you can be. It doesn't mean you're also not in the source. It doesn't mean you're also not in the lens. It also means you're in the observer. It means that lens where your physical body is where you are God. You are the creator of your universe. Everything else exists, but without you there personalizing and defining, it's all just potential. And so in 2022, we want to challenge each and every one of you into manifestation. We want to remind you on a regular basis of how much power you possess to be in control of your own domain. And that ultimately is what you've come here for. That is ultimately self-love. You know, have you ever had a relative or a friend who bought an automobile and babied that automobile? No one else could drive it. And it was always clean. And they were always tinkering under the hood because they understood how maintenance was needed for their precious automobile. And then they would get in and they drive around beaming. And that's what we want you to do with you. We want you to get to know yourself on such an intimate basis that you get so intimate with yourself, and that becomes your operating system, that you then transcend the need in the lens to be anything else. Because that is the ultimate self-care and self-protection, is your intuition is going to guide you to take a step for the good of the whole. And there are people such as Kathy Klein, who is here, of course, with us always, who can attest that when you get to the other side, you're always going to see something you won't ever see as a human. It's inevitable that then you have some major aha moments and energy continues to evolve and transform. And from that place of immortality, you can decide, do I need to go back? Do I want to go back? Can I go back? Should I go back? And a lot of you will jump right back in. Because from that place in afterlife, it's a whole different long view than it is right now where you are. And because of that, we want to encourage all of you to, as much as you possibly can, take the long view in your body. And if it helps, think of something that when you were going through it, you swore you were never going to get through it, but you did. So go back to that person who swore you were never going to get through it, and that sort of fear that's being generated by that. And breathe and feel it. Invite it to release from your abscess. You don't need to know why you feel it. You just need to honor it, articulate it, breathe it through, let it flow, unblock it. And then today, if you find yourself in that anxiety, go back to that person who got through it, that first example, the person who got through it and was able to go, oh, I'm so grateful for that experience. It enriched my life. It was very, very difficult, but part of what I learned was resilience and compassion for other people and forgiving myself for being human, and put yourself there before you even get there on whatever anxiety you have. See yourself, oh, I didn't think I was going to make it, but what a thankful opportunity I have here to learn. And that way you become grateful before you have to be through it. But we're also going to tell you that because you've chosen to come here at this time, that these times, as we've said, are the least spiritual that's really ever been sweeping the planet. But these are going to tumble, because the authentic truth of the planet is there's far more people who are authentic and compassionate than the people who are strangle-holding. And however that collective energy plays out, the more that you can remember it and breathe it in and keep it in your prayers and get in touch with it, the more you're going to help activate that change. And the more that you visualize that change taking place in a way that doesn't necessarily, you don't have to rip out the structural support of the system. It's sort of like your own physical change. We don't change the way the structure of your system is. We reveal to you that the system is actually structured in a much bigger way. And right now, humans are needing to understand that what they're experiencing, the reality they're experiencing, is being structured in a much greater way than they're surmising just by looking at what's happening in culture. And you're going to see in 2022 a lot of people who are coming to that precipice. And in many ways, it's not unlike all of your transformation early on, when your own lives were wreaked with chaos and you were forced through desperation to try something new, to take a new turn. It's the same way. And luckily for the planet, we have you. We have you and all the others who understand this and are committed to compassion and are committed to, on a daily basis, intentionally anchor in compassion. So in these times, it's going to take a lot of focus. You know, when you're out in the woods, maybe you've taken a hike by yourself and you're going to sit in lotus position over this beautiful hill and look at this lake and you hear the birds, and it's a lot easier to focus than when you're sitting in Times Square and there's thousands and thousands of humans moving about around you. It's a lot harder to focus there. But that's the good news, is that you are in a place when it's really loud to help you become the strongest that you can be. Because if you can focus in Times Square, then you can focus anywhere. And that's the point, is that every day it's going to take you a concerted effort, and you will do it or you won't. And you will reap the benefits or you won't. And that is the bottom line right now. It is your decisions that will determine the life that you have and how you experience it. And you have that free will right there. Sort of the gateway between the non-physical and the physical world is that free will, yes or no? Are you going to implement what intuition is impelling you to do, or are you not? Because anything else is a distraction. It's also not a focus, and it's taking you away from self-love. This is a very evolved course that you're on. It is the epitome of what the planet is headed towards in its evolutionary intention, is that. And you have an opportunity to do that right now, today. You're not waiting for a revelation or a revolution or anything. You can do this today. You have control. That's the great news. That's why Barbara's so excited, because she found that out, that she didn't have to wait for the object of her conflict to do anything. When she revolved her focus to herself and went, what can I do to find the same place within me? And that humility is often exactly what is needed in that moment. When you are being stubborn and you're focusing on somebody else and you're channeling that anger into a story in that intellect about that person and who they are and what they did, and then that wave hits the manifestation of your entire universe, and that's what you're creating. It's all you, baby. And part of the humility that's needed is to understand that, first of all, you're human, they're human. This is part of it. This is part of forgiveness. And also that no one has control over you. No one. No one has control over what emotion you feel. They can do things that you will allow them to have control. That's what's going on in the world today. People are allowing culture to have control over their emotions, and their emotions are being jacked around as they go up and down and up and down, and following the external dramas of all of the horrible things that could happen, and the feeding of the fear and the projection of the fear. And so you stop this. You're for yourself. And we cannot stress how powerful that decision will be. You will be free. And when you're free, you need to open up your whole entire heart to yourself, to building a system of self-love, of self-care that allows emotions to flow freely, that allows your intuition to be the voice of God within you so strong, and that creates an intellect that is a humble servant to the calling of that intuitive voice of God within you. And when you do that, when you create for yourself that kind of focus and control, you are aligned to compassion. You are consciousness to the third power. And that's an infinite amount of power. But as you move forward into 2002, you will find these steps becoming easier and more inspiring. And you'll find your present moment person more willing to feel some anxiety rather than stuffing it or beating yourself up because of it. You'll find a new human, birthing the new humanity, who can love yourself silly through that anxiety. And slowly you're finding that all emotion then changes to power. When you stop judging your emotions, when you stop funneling them into stories about something outside yourself, when you stop doing that, you birth that new human, and you're leading the way for generations. And we're not exaggerating when we say that. We're very, very honored and proud to be with you on this journey. We would open for questions and conversation.
Where is that? What did you mean? What did you mean? Something about things were going to get looser this year in how we can apply this way of being, this understanding. The word was looser, and I thought, I wonder what that means. I don't know if you.
Well, if we were to have used that word, it would probably be more accurate to say more free form.
That sounds good.
Yes, it's not, a lot of people like first A, B, C, D, and then you get to E. A lot of people like that.
Okay.
But
yes.
It'll be, yes, more free form.
Yeah, this is Robin. I just want to say thank you for this beautiful message. I honestly never ever tire of hearing it. What I took notes about was this reminder of the concerted daily focus. And so I thought that maybe you could expand on that a little bit. What comes to mind would be things like awareness, self-awareness in every moment, and concerted daily focus to feel our emotions, to listen to the compelling of the intuition, and really monitor where that intellect is trying to take us. Is there anything else that comes to mind when you think of, or when you speak to concerted daily focus?
That was a good synopsis of the root of what you're looking for on a very microscopic level. The work that you just described, where you're witnessing yourself, you're witnessing what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what intuition is telling you while you're in your witness, is really the crux of how the operating system aligns to compassion. It isn't the only thing. When you're aligned to compassion, all those three senses are working in conjunction with each other as they should. But the beginning to get there is having that witness who sees those things. You all have gotten masterful at being your own witness. All of you have very, very powerful abilities to observe yourselves. How often you include the witness, especially when there's deep emotion or overwhelming stories. Sometimes the deep emotion, for those of you, when you're going through that compassion, that pure compassion, it's very intense. It's not something that people generally want to do. Walk into, say, an anxiety and just be in there and be with it, breathing through the middle of it. Not a lot of people want to do that. And with the stories, once that ego and the story gets a hold, everything else can disappear, like you're hypnotized, that this obsession that you have with something outside yourself is the truth. So you can say it like it's just, well, every day you should be aware, but you see the enormity of it and why we continue. And we're very glad you don't get tired of it. We don't either, because it's still so new. What we're saying, you've watched through the years as things that we have told you have now moved into a more mainstream consciousness. And this is going to happen more and more. But back to your question, we're saying a very intentional, right when you wake up focus, every single day, right when you wake up focus. And we've always suggested that, but that is going to be a key to anchoring yourself in a day that are going to get like a wild ride. It's not that 2022 is just going to be smooth sailing ahead. There's a lot of changes coming, but your focus is this. And we think that daily focus, intentional every day without fail, is going to anchor you in the rest of the miraculous stuff that you're doing. And you should look at that. You should define it that way. Witnessing yourself in that way is miraculous. Joanne, did you have?
I have an idea that we should change the expression, I'm only human. It just makes everything seem both small and also too small, and also allowing for all bad behavior as, oh, well, I'm only human. Even one of Michael Jackson's great songs, I used to always change that line when I heard him singing that we can maybe say we're miraculously human, or we're, something else that enlarges and empowers our humanness because of everything you just said.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It is a miracle that you're sitting in those chairs, even if you have troubles in your lens. It's even if you're behaving poorly, even if you can't get out of a hole, it's a miracle that any of that is happening in any way, shape, or form. And the more that you can remember that and anchor in that, the more you send ripples into the daily world that you then deal with, where you might be making mistakes in that sense. Oh, well, we can tell you when you're on the other side, they all look a lot different.
I do use that expression with people, or, you know, say Einstein says, we're all miracles just sitting in a chair. Yeah.
We will close the channel at this time by once again extending to you our own resource. You all know you don't need Barbara to be able to work with us, to communicate, to gain our wisdom, and we can gain yours. And we plan on being around in a much greater presence this year. And we're excited about the potentials that are coming down the road for us to get some airtime in bigger ways than we have perhaps since the quantum leap, which brought many together. So go on, dear friends, with our great appreciation, and continue to watch and be amazed. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.